Alright, so if you don't already know, Sonic Superstars was revealed just last week at Summer Game Fest, and we've been getting a ton of information. And as you can see, there's a bunch of tabs full of new info that we're going to get into. So we're going to get to all this right now. But subscribe to the channel already. Please make sure to subscribe, okay? So yes, we got a lot of shit to talk about. And yeah, I think we're just going to go through all the tabs. I actually forgotten what a lot of the tabs are. I've been collecting them for a few days. So there's a lot of shit to go through. So let's just start. Okay, this is a tweet that says, it's pretty funny that all they did to de-green hill this location was invert the hue values. If you invert them back, it's the same shades of brown they've been using for Green Hill Zone. So obviously this is what the image looks like, or this is what it looks like in the actual game, Sonic Superstars. And Iizuka made a big deal about saying that there was no unoriginal zones, but if you change the hue values, then apparently it's basically the same as Green Hill Zone. So that's pretty interesting, I guess. Yeah, that's modern, not modern, that's classic green for generations. It's pretty much the same colors. I mean, hey, look, at least they did something, right? They could have called it Green Hill Zone, brought the music back and said, see, it's Green Hill from the 90s, remember? Buy the game. At least they changed it. I'm sure the music will be different too, so I mean, that's something, right? I mean, they attempted, right? Emerald Hill is basically Green Hill, but it was an attempt, right? Seaside Hill is basically Green Hill, but it was an attempt, right? I appreciate the attempt, okay? But yeah, it's kind of funny. Here's a big one. In the VGC News interview, Daddy Zook notes that Whitehead and Headcanon are not involved with Sonic Superstars. They were previously involved in planning a 2D Sonic after Mania, but the project did not make it to development, and we got the full story here. Though Takashi Iizuka is focused on who is making Sonic Superstars in a recent interview with VGC, he also discussed two notable groups who aren't involved, Christian Whitehead and Headcanon, the developers behind 2017 Sonic Mania, though not for a lack of trying. Iizuka says here, when we were making Sonic Mania and the game was finished and Chris was gone, we had a conversation with Chris and the team about what the next 2D game we make should be. We had some concepts and ideas laid out between the teams, but we couldn't kick off the project, and so it disappeared for a while with Chris and the team. Iizuka doesn't specify what challenges halted the conceptual next 2D entry from Whitehead and Headcanon. However, Sonic Team will continue to work with Headcanon on a retro engine remake of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Headcanon is, I believe, Stealth, so that's different from Whitehead. But yeah, for Sonic Origins and further content for the upcoming Plus expansion. So Stealth has come back for certain things, but I don't think Christian Whitehead has come back. So certain people in the Mania team have come back. Obviously, T-Lopes has come back to work on Sonic since Mania, but it seems like Whitehead has not come back. Now, a lot of people, I guess, were surprised, even though this has been leaked ages ago. I talked about this a month ago, over a year ago. You can see multiple times I've talked about the situation. I mean, Iizuka's glamorizing it, making it seem like we just couldn't come up with an idea, so we just scrapped it and made something else from another team. But in reality, obviously, payment disputes, all sorts of things, like what really happened. I'm not going to get into all of it because the videos are there, right? So if you want to see the full story, you can go through the actual rumors that paint less of a pretty picture. But yeah, we got this VGC interview. So there's a bit more information here, so we're going to go through this. It says Sonic Superstars is developed by original designer studio Sega confirmed. So it's not actually Sonic Team, even though they put the Sonic Team seal on it. But we'll read and get the full info here. Sonic Mania director talks fell through. Sonic 3 composer Wilhelm Audio. So yeah, Sega's new Sonic game is developed by Arzest, the Japanese studio run by the mascot's original creator Naoto Oshima, is told VGC. Oshima, who is credited as designing Sonic and writing art for the franchise's earliest games, will be returning for his first series entry in over 20 years as Sonic Superstars. Remember, he designed the character of Sonic, right? He wasn't like the lead programmer of like Sonic 1. Like, that was usually Naka, and obviously we had Yasuhara and things like that. So remember that Oshima coming back is not like, oh my god, it's going to be exactly like Sonic 2 or anything like that. But let's just keep reading. Sonic Team boss Takashi Iizuka said in an interview at Summer Game Fest on Saturday that the company had originally intended to collaborate again with developer Christian Whitehead, who directed 2017 Sonic Mania, but plans fell through. Iizuka then approached Oshima, who worked on the original Sonic 1 and other entries in the 90s, to lead the next 2D game with his development team, which is best known for developing titles such as Hey Pikmin and Yoshi's New Island. We're not going to mention the fact that he's also known for developing Balan Wonderworld, or we'll leave that out of the article. Okay, cool. Sonic Mania developers Headcanon and Christian Whitehead are not involved, as Iizuka confirmed. When we were making Sonic Mania and the game was finished and Chris was done, yeah, we already read this part, but yeah. It says here, I'm friends with a lot of my old co-workers and I was having a conversation with Oshima-san about how we should make a Sonic game together and if he'd be interested. He's the original creator of Sonic the Hedgehog. And so we had a conversation about whether his company Arzest would be interested in working on a Sonic game. So there were ideas of Chris and the team that fell through. Sonic Superstars is really all developed by Arzest, but Sonic Team in Japan is working with them on design and some other elements. So this is like, when we have these debates about what games are main series, people will be like, Rush is Sonic Team, or the advanced games are Sonic Team. It's like, no, it's like this. It's like, we'll get the outside team to do it, Dimps will do it, but Sonic Team will get a few employees to like oversee and make sure it's what we want it to be, and then we'll slap the Sonic Team name on it, because the Sonic Team name, especially back in the early 2000s, really meant something in terms of like the seal of quality, basically. So that's why they always put the Sonic Team logo on it. So yeah, it's an Arzest game, but it's got the Sonic Team logo on it. Arzest and Oshima-san are 100% developers of the game. Iizuka explained that he feels he can trust Oshima's team because of his valuable experience working on the original Sonic games. Oshima is best known as the creator of Sonic's character design, but Izuma said few people know that he actually designed many levels too. I mean, it was Sonic 1, so you gotta be more specific. Which levels? You design Green Hill? You design Starlight? Or you design Labyrinth? I mean, we like to know. The people like to know. I'm just saying. What Oshima-san really brings is his classic Sonic experience, having worked on Sonic 1 and Sonic CD. He directed CD, by the way. That was the only classic game he directed, was CD. So if you love CD, then... But to be fair, okay, look. I don't think Sonic Superstars is going to be as horrible as Sonic CD. I think Superstars is looking a lot better than CD, because CD, if you already know my content, you know I don't like CD. It's the only classic Sonic game I didn't like. It's very convoluted in level design. Superstars looks a lot simpler in level design. I don't think it's going to be anything like CD. But it says he has an understanding of how to make a true classic Sonic game. A lot of people think Oshima-san just came in and thought what Sonic would look like, drew the character, and that was it. But he was also doing level design in Sonic 1 in addition to drawing and creating the character. So he has that experience of making a Sonic game because he did level design for the original game. In addition, Iizuka revealed that Sonic 3 composer Jun Sonoe will be leading audio on Superstars. When we talk about people who are still around who worked on the classic Sonic games, there are not a lot of people who are actively creating games left over from that really small group. But there are 3 people, myself, Oshima-san, and the third is Jun Sonoe at Sega, who did music for Sonic 3 back in the day. I mean, he also did like the Adventure Era and things like that. Jun Sonoe is goated. I mean, we all know who he is, but it's just interesting that they only mentioned that he's worked on Sonic 3 and not the actual stuff that he did after that, which I would argue was better, like Adventure 1 soundtrack, Adventure 2 soundtrack, things like that. He's also participating in the development of Sonic Superstars. Jun is the music director on the game and is really focused on making it sound like a classic game. God forbid we make it sound like something that wasn't a classic game, you know, like Mania's soundtrack, which didn't have the Sonic 4 sound font, but actually sounded really good, but it wasn't just copying the classics verbatim, especially with the new songs. But obviously, he's not sat around creating all this music himself. He's working with internal teams at Sega to create music in that classic Sonic vibe, and he's also working on some external teams such as T-Lopes, who helped out on Sonic Mania. So we know T-Lopes is involved somewhat, but his level of involvement is clearly not as high as, say, with Mania, because with Mania, he obviously did basically the whole soundtrack, minus, I think, a few Hyper Potion songs. So in this instance, it's like Jun Sonoe is doing the bulk of it, and maybe on a few songs, T-Lopes will come and help out. I guess we'll know which ones T-Lopes worked on, because we can kind of tell his kind of style. Sonic Superstars lets player control either Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, or Amy for the first time in this, and for the first time in a Sonic game, there'll also be co-op support for up to 4 players. I mean, yeah, that's the first time. The game was released in full, both digitally and physically, on pretty much everything. So, yeah, that's pretty much that article. So, what have we got here? I think this is basically the same information that we just read from the VGC article, so we don't need to go over this. And what is this? The new Sonic Superstars character now has a name. Iizuka has confirmed in an IGN interview that their name is Trip, which might explain why he's tripping all the time. Full story in next tweet, so we can see the new character here. Is he wearing like a helmet? I don't know what that is, but that's the new character. And there's a Sonic Stadium article surrounding this, so yeah, we can see a new character. We got, yeah, the pictures of it, pretty much. I don't really have much to say about this character. I'm guessing, is it a villain? Like a lackey or something? But yeah, there's an IGN interview surrounding that, so I think we should probably go through that. Actually, I've already got that open, so we'll come back to that later. But what else have we got? Screenshots of the Nintendo Switch version of Sonic Superstars have been revealed, part 1. So you can see, this screenshot doesn't look too bad. This doesn't look too bad. This looks horrible. This looks like it's a fucking 3DS game. I don't know what happened with this particular screenshot compared to, like, this. when you see the comparison, you know what I mean. There was a comparison image which really just like highlighted why it looked so bad. But here it is. Yes, this. So this is what it actually is supposed to look like. You see, there's more blocks and more elements and more detail, and then the Switch version just like castrates it, and there's like holes everywhere. I don't understand because all the other Switch screenshots didn't even look that bad. So for this one in particular to feel so gimped, like I feel like I could run this on a PSP. I mean, maybe this shark enemy wouldn't look as detailed, but this is giving off PSP vibes. Like I've been playing. I used to play Rivals all the time, so like it's giving off that kind of aesthetic. But maybe by launch it will be improved, I guess. And then we got the Sonic Stadium, I believe, hands-on preview of Sonic Superstars, and they're basically giving off their impressions of the game. And yeah, they mentioned Sonic 4, things like that. The game's story starts depicting which character you're playing. Sonic Tails' story starts on a tornado chasing Fang. Amy's petting some of the small animal friends when she sees Sonic's plane in pursuit of Fang, and she decides to chase after a hero. Knuckles is chilling next to the Master Emerald when he spots the tornado. So basic classic Sonic story kind of cutscene intro. So we had a half-an-hour demo with Amy, since she's never been a playable character in these classic adventures until Sonic Origins Plus, which is coming out in 11 days. I forgot about that. I need to actually see if I can get that. Her special ability is a double. So Amy's got a double jump. So I'm guessing she's in more of an easy mode, because that double jump is going to make things a lot easier to cheese. If the jump button is held down when she lands, it could be followed up by her running forward and smashing her hammer, destroying any bandits or breakable objects in her path. The other characters all have the same abilities from past games. Sonic can drop dash, Knuckles glides and climbs, and can really help you skip past large areas, and Tails flies. Expected. There's a surprising amount of new badniks, along with the returning assortment of crab meats and the like. The Buzz Bombers now fire full laser beams instead of short laser bursts. The new bandits can have some clever new methods of attack too. There's a dragonfly one that disguises itself as a monitor before attacking. Okay, that's interesting. Then there are golden bandits which you can find hidden in each zone, which can reward you with a gold medal when destroyed. What these medals do is unknown to me so far, but there were several to collect in my playthrough. So this is one of the bonus stages. I think we've already seen this footage before. Or maybe not, but Amy, that's the multiple Amy's, like we saw the multiple Sonics. But yeah, this is pretty much Amy footage of Speed Jungle Zone. I do think we did see this footage earlier. I think I must have watched it in the live stream. But yeah, you got the special stage or a bonus stage where you swing around like through the 3D environment, and then you grab the medal. And then the Sonic 1 special stages are for the emeralds. And I believe it's 1 emerald per zone, so you can't get multiple per zone. Some games are like, I think Sonic 4 is like that as well. Sonic Heroes did that as well. While we're talking about hidden items, let's talk about bonus stages. I experienced 3 different types during my... Oh, 3? Oh, I think they're talking about the entry. The first one is unlocked by finding a giant ring similar to Sonic 3. This leads to an open space environment where you swing across a grapple laser as you try and hunt down either an emerald or a medal. Oh, so it can be an emerald or a medal with the same kind of 3D bonus stage. Okay, so it's not 1 per type of stage. You only go after medals if you've already got the emerald in that zone. Ah, okay, so the first one will be getting the emerald, and if you're still in that zone, you find another big ring, then it'll be a medal. It's basically like a homing attack meets Spider-Man web swinging. The only challenge to it is that you can sometimes swing away from your target. There are also little boosts in the level that can shoot you quickly towards or away from the emerald depending on where it's aiming. I went through 3 of these and they were fairly easy each time. Not really surprised, that's the goal, right? The second one was a surprise as I didn't see it when other press were playing the demo. It seems if you go fast enough, you can cause a warp to appear that you can jump into. This leads to a short level of you bouncing forward and collecting rings until it ends. And it seems that you're now on a different part of the zone, I think. My memory is a little hazy on that part. So it's like a kind of warp situation. Are they talking about this in particular? I'm glad that they made this a lot bigger above the checkpoint, because in Sonic 2, I swear, I didn't even know that you were supposed to jump above the checkpoints when I was a kid. It wasn't until I saw, like, as an adult, like, people playing the game on YouTube, and I was like, oh, you can jump above the check. I didn't even see it, but this is, like, so clear and obvious that you wouldn't even miss that. Well, yeah, you can see a picture of the Sonic 1 special stages that they brought back again. Finally, the third of my favorite is found by passing the goalpost with enough rings, which is how you did it in Sonic 1 and I believe CD. Which opens a portal you can jump into, just like in the classic games. This time you're in a floating and constantly spinning maze, basically Sonic 1. You collect the gold medals instead of a chaos. So now there's no emeralds in that one. So the Sonic 1 is just for medals and not for emeralds. This is not very easy as there's a lot of red spikes you can accidentally hit that will end your level. Are they saying all of these red ones will end the level? That's kind of interesting, because if that's the case, if they mean these, then that's actually way more challenging than it was in Sonic 1. Because Sonic 1, your main issue was like you couldn't control everything properly, and then you'd hit the edges where the fake goals were, and then you'd end. But if it's like every single red box here could kill you, and that's definitely a more challenging take on that, which is interesting to see. I don't know how you control these. Is it like Sonic 1 where you had a lot less control? Or is it like Sonic 4 Episode 1 where they kind of let you direct the whole environment, making it way more easier to control? I guess we'll find out soon enough. Fortunately, there are triggers you can hit that will either block the red triangles or change the maze to help keep your path going. They can be tricky to get to, but necessary to finish the level. I quickly died on my first attempt, but managed to pass it a second time. I then found a second maze level even tougher, and I cheered as I scraped by the final path for the red spikes. It was very fun. So, can you redo the special stages like in Sonic Origins? They let you use like medals to retry them, or is it just like you get one chance, one shot, do not miss your chance to blow kind of thing? Alright, so we talked about the bonus stages. What about the main ones? The demo featured 2 zones with 2x each. Okay, so it's 2x per zone, I'm guessing. It's not 3x per zone. So we got Bridge Island and Speed Jungle. Alright, so Bridge Island starts out like a recolored green hill, but soon differentiates itself with large open pathways, providing plenty of room to explore the environment. There are some boost pads and launchers, but not so many that it forces you onto a single path. Rather, you can choose which booster to take you towards which path you want. They range from curved boosts in the sky to maze-like tunnels, reminiscent of the ones from Stardust Speedway. Okay. One of the new things you can do is run along curved walls. It's a little different from Sonic 2 in that you can hold up to run up in the path higher, and you don't need to be running full speed. So it's the curved walls. Okay, so you run up. Okay, that makes sense. You can also climb up waterfalls using the new water power. This leads to new areas you wouldn't want to get to without it. I'll go more in detail on these new emerald powers later. The first act ends with a giant sea monster bandit chasing after you, very similar to the killer whale in Sonic Generations 3DS, of course. Surviving causes the bandit to smash itself and free the massive animal body inside. The second boss is an encounter with a big Eggman mech, which tries to smash you with boxing gloves. You can either run between its legs and attack from behind, or wait for its attack to aim and fire, then dodge and do a jump attack. Target attacks by the bosses were a definite theme in this demo. One thing I really like is that when standing still in boss fights, Sonic and Friends' stance changes from still and impatient to fists drawn and ready to fight. It was a nice touch. While Bridge Island feels a little familiar, Speed Jungle feels more modern. I mean, Speed Jungle kind of reminds me of Silent Forest from Lost World. That's kind of the vibe I was getting from it. From Tarzan-like sliding among moss-colored branches to being launched in the air by jungle vines, the zone has a unique feel to it. I will say there are times when it felt more automated than the previous zone. So they're saying it's more automated. Okay. Like being launched from a giant vine into a sliding branch only to be bounced around by other short vines. Definitely not as automated as some Sonic games. But it gave me some Sonic Rush fire. Sonic Rush wasn't as automated as you're making it seem though. Especially since, it had the trick system and all sorts of shortcuts you could take with that. But, I guess it's kind of weird because some people are saying Rush is too automated, but other people are saying Rush is too difficult. So, like, which one is it? There are still branching paths, but once a path is chosen, it's hard to go back and try a new one. Which is kind of what I noticed in the footage. It didn't feel like you could just kind of choose your route fully. It felt kind of like it's a set path. Once you run it, you kind of just follow it kind of thing. Kind of like what Sonic 4 did, but the mini boss is a giant wasp-like bandit provided by a giant blue flicky bird. It's got 2 methods of attack, grappling hook, yada yada yada. The second boss is Eggman inside a spinning black egg robot. He targets the player with chain hooks that you can use as platforms until they're accidentally damaged. We already saw footage for this boss, so yeah. I mean, this is the one that looks like the Syndrome Incredibles thing, basically. So yeah, we pretty much saw this already. Also introduces a brand new set of abilities to Classic Sonic, the Emerald Powers. These powers can get you to new places in each zone or offer powerful attacks against enemies. This is probably the most new thing in the game, or I'd say the most from the 90s Classic Sonic thing in the game. So I want to hear more about this. They're selectable either by using the right thumbstick or L and R triggers to choose, followed by using the square button or the left facing front button depending on which controller you use. These powers include a water ability that lets you climb waterfalls to get to new heights, mostly useful on Bridge Island, and an ability called Avatar, which lets you attack enemies and unblock paths with a large army of doppelgangers. We saw that one in the footage. I beat the Dragonfly Bandit way too easily by using this power. The Parade of Sonics hit him multiple times and he went down easy. While the demo gave you both powers from the start, I imagine the final game will probably space these powers out to keep the game challenging. Also, these powers will probably let you find new experiences in older levels. Now, given that I can only get 1 emerald per zone, I'm assuming that you're only going to have 1 power at the start of the game once you get the first emerald in that zone. And then you get to the second zone, you'll be able to get the second power, etc, etc. So the reason why they don't let you spam all the emeralds in one area, like Sonic 2 or Sonic 3, is because they don't want you to have all the powers from the jump. Speaking of which, is Super Sonic going to be playable in the levels? I'm assuming if it's a classic game that they'll probably let you do that. While the game is 4 players simultaneous, my experience is single player only. That said, it doesn't change that classic Sonic feel, and the camera stays focused in the middle and right on the player. Going by other videos I've seen, it looks like the camera pans out further, depending on how many more players there are. It never feels like they made compromises for the game to be multiplayer. I mean, how would you know that if you haven't played it multiplayer yet, you know? But the only thing I found that's multiplayer specific is a set of 4 boxes in the air you come across. You can jump and hang off one of them for extra rings. It honestly feels out of place, come to think of it. The odd warp zone just had me collecting rings as well. Maybe it's used for a competitive nature against other players. Outside of that, you'd never know this is a multiplayer game. My only real nitpick is the music. Oof. Maybe it was the quietness of the headphones I was using, but the music was just meh. It fits the environment well, but was also uneventful. For example, Speed Jungle had very jungle-like music, but nothing I haven't heard in other platformers. Not near as bad as Sonic 4, but nothing I'd play on my Spotify. For the record, I actually like Sonic 4's OST. I mean, it's not S tier or anything, but I enjoyed it. Was it Jun Tsunoe who did Sonic 4's OST? I don't even remember, actually. Was that Jun Tsunoe? Because I can't even remember. Yep, composer Jun Tsunoe. Okay, so it's the same Jun Tsunoe that did Sonic 4 OST that's doing this. But yeah, finally, I imagine many of you wondering if the game has that classic Sonic feel that the 16-bit classics were known for. Worry not. It's all here. Momentum, gravity, speed, physics, it's all as you remember it. No walking up slopes. None of that artificial running feel. In fact, one time I got Amy running so fast she was completely off screen like Sonic would sometimes achieve back in the day. Sonic Superstars feels like a new chapter in the classic Sonic franchise. Despite having 3D graphics, it seems like it will stand amongst the other 2D greats such as Sonic 2, 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic Mania. Nice, not including CD. While the soundtrack might not stand up with the greats, the classic gameplay is there with all new features. Look out, new Super Mario Bros. Sonic Superstars is here to steal your thunder. Over a decade after they stopped making those games. Sega's always ahead of the curve, doing what Nintendo don't, right? What else have we got? Oh, this tweet is gone. Okay, we don't have that. Here's one. New Sonic Superstars details. You will find situations that only a specific protagonist will be able to experience, and also the ending of the adventure will change depending on who you play. So I guess different cutscenes depending on, you know, whoever you play as, especially for the ending. That makes sense. They took that from this impressions. I'm guessing this is in Italian. If we translate the page, I'm not going to read all of this, but yeah, there's a lot of impressions basically to go through. I think GameSpot have got hands-on impressions as well, and IGN have got a video here saying how Sonic Superstars aims to be a modern Sonic Mania. I mean, I guess we could watch these videos, but if you're done watching, I guess you can stop watching now, because we're just going to be looking at impressions. Maybe there'll be some info about the games in here, but it's not really an article, so if you don't want to see me react to these impressions, then it is what it is. But I'm going to quickly go through this and just like watch and see how I feel about these impressions. So let's get into this.
Sonic Superstars is playable here at Summer Game Fest, and we got hands-on with the short demo that was available. Now, Jean-Luc, give me your initial impressions of
what
Sonic
is that
Superstars.
frame rate? What did they uploaded this in 30 FPS? 1080p premium. Enhanced bit. When did they add this? I mean, I'm on YouTube Premium, so.
2 stages. The first is like the not green.
Why would they post this in 30 FPS? It's a game. Like, GameSpot, what are you doing? I mean, unless it's the Switch port or something. But the Switch port should be 60, right? I mean, if it's 30, then they slacked. They slacked.
And then the second one's like a jungle stage. I played as Sonic. and I play as Amy. Sonic plays like Sonic.
Sure does.
Amy plays like Amy. She's got the hammer. It's classic Amy, her classic design, which I love from the Sonic CD. And I mean, yeah, I think the big question people had is like, does this feel like classic Sonic? Because I mean, admittedly, like it doesn't feel maybe as special because we already had Sonic Mania. But to be fair,
So even GameSpot is saying it doesn't feel as special because we just saw this. But yeah, let me not be a hater before everyone gets mad.
like this is not made by the Sonic Mania team. So I think the question was like, can this team also kind of capture that classic magic? And I would say the answer is yes. Like it definitely like, you know, I think it has all the staples of classic 2D Sonic. The stages felt very expansive. Just the brief time went through it, I was like, wow, like there's some like levels of like layers and verticality to it that it felt,
That's good
felt
for
very
Kelly.
large. But I mean, yeah, like all the stuff's there. They had the Chaos Emerald stages, which is like this weird 3D, you're like grapple hooking to try and like catch the Chaos Emerald, which I thought was kind of fun and it's just like a little neat diversion. But what's interesting is when you get the Chaos Emerald, you then unlock a power. Like the first stage of Sonic, I unlocked
the
the
Emerald
ability, you unlock water, and then you can turn into like a little like gelatinous water version of
looks like that
Sonic,
one
and
was-
then that allows you to like go up a waterfall, and it seems kind of based on like this just essentially just opens up like a alternate path that you can go around. The other option I got was like decoy attacks where you can send like copies of yourself on screen to
we
fight
saw
enemies,
that.
which I had as Amy and it looked really goofy, or like it's just like 20 Amy's just go like flying on the stage and hit everyone, and I thought that was like funny. So yeah, it seems like they're kind of mixing a combination of this is for traversal versus this is for like dealing with enemies. As far as how those like impact the overall feel of the game, they did feel kind of limited because you would just like activate them and they would be available for like 30 seconds and then they'd go away and then they were on like a cooldown so you couldn't use it for a while. So you kind of had to be like deliberate when you used it.
It's kind of like the wisp, really. I mean, if that wasn't evident already, it's like you get the wisp, you use it once for something, and then it's gone until you grab another wisp kind of thing. It's kind of what it is, really. It's classic Sonic with his own version of the wisp.
But like otherwise, it's just like, yep, this
sure
sure is 2D Sonic. And if you like 2D Sonic, I think you're gonna be real happy. And if you don't like 2D Sonic, like this ain't gonna change your mind.
It's not going to change your mind.
Exactly.
I got to talk to Takashi Iizuka, who's been a producer on the Sonic series for a very long time, and that's basically what he told me was that, you know, Sonic Frontiers is a modern interpretation of Sonic in a 3D world, whereas Superstars, what they're trying to do is channel that same energy from Sonic Mania, and you know, Sonic Mania was a great game on its own, and it also had that old school pixel art, that retro style that everyone kind of fell in love with through the years with Sonic. So not only is Superstars modern in the graphical sense because they are using like actual 3D models, more modern art style, with that along being a 2D adventure game. But
I mean, I wouldn't really call it a modern art style. I mean, it's 3D, but the art style is very, very classic Sonic. I mean, a modern art style would be something that looks more modern and sleek, like say the way Sonic Rush looked or something like that. It's like it's not trying to look like a classic Sonic game. So yeah,
it's also the Emerald powers that you mentioned, opening up different parts of the stages, and I think that's the most impressive part from the demo that we saw was that just how expansive those are, because you are going like you got to go right. It's you know, make it to the boss, fight the boss, but I noticed, especially in the jungle stage that you mentioned, there's so much to explore. There's so many avenues that I saw and thought, like, okay, on my second run, maybe I'll try to go all the way up, and I almost forgot that I had the power, that waterfall power, that just opens up a totally different part of the level that you don't see. So I do think that there's something more there than just being like, oh, we're slapping modern graphics on traditional Sonic. That's level that you don't see. So I do think that there's something more there than just being like, oh, we're slapping modern graphics.
What's the more that he was talking about? What is the
Sonic.
more?
So that's promising. But again, I think the quirks of Sonic still very much show through. Some of the boss battles were fun. I liked the mechanics that they were showing, but at the same time, you know, it's it's not like you're going to be playing a Mario Odyssey being this big jump for the series.
I would.
So basically, it's not innovative enough. Is what they're saying. Like it's not Mario Odyssey. Like it's not some jump. I mean, I guess you wouldn't expect it to be because it's more like New Super Mario Bros. But yeah,
kind of equate it to like the way Nintendo hasn't done this in a while, but like I feel like on the Wii they kind of did the thing where you'd have like your
Mario,
big 3D
yeah.
like Mario Galaxy, but then you'd have like New Super Mario Brothers, which was just like classic 2D Mario, and like this feels like that's what they're doing with Superstars as like a complement to Frontiers, like you said, and I do like that. Like that is, I think, a good path for Sonic as a franchise to take.
And that's what Iizuka mentioned. Was
okay,
that, like,
great,
we have,
perfect.
Like this isn't supposed to be like the flagship entry. Like they have.
I mean, we're charging the same money that we charge for Frontiers, but it's not meant to be the flagship. But I mean, look. People will pay $60 clearly, it seems like, so.
Tiers, they have Superstars, so they have like this dual track to kind of, I guess, please Sonic fans in different ways with what they're doing with the series. So, but yeah, it was a fairly short demo, but I do want to bring up co-op, which we didn't necessarily get hands-on with, but I did talk to Iizuka about how that works. So this is the first Sonic game, I believe, with 4-player co-op. I'm not sure how it's going to work in terms of, because like, Sonic can go fast, and he's going to be ripping through those stages. But there's like a tether system to make sure that everyone kind of stays together.
Just dragging your little brother along the stage.
Yeah. But I do, like you mentioned, playing Amy, and then Knuckles.
I mean, it's kind of like when you play Sonic Heroes and Sonic's in the lead, like Tails and Knuckles are like struggling to keep up, and they're like flinging to catch up kind of thing. You know,
Tails also have their traditional powers, so they're not necessarily like revamping any of the characters.
Totally.
They're gonna do the things that you know and love about them throughout the stages. So, but yeah, I mean, it sure is Sonic, and I hope that like the people looking for that thing are going to find what they're looking for in this game.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
So those are our impressions of Sonic Superstars, which you can expect this fall on all the major platforms.
Alright, this is basically the gameplay we already reacted to before. This isn't any new gameplay. We reacted to that in the live stream, so that's pretty much that. And then IGN's got their How Sonic Superstars Aims to Be a Modern Sonic Mania, and this involves an Iizuka interview, so again, we're going to take a look at that. So yeah, let's go through this.
Now, it was just last year we received Sonic's latest 3D adventure in Sonic Frontiers, and just a little over half a year later, Sega is back at it again, taking our favorite blue hedgehog back to his 2D roots with Sonic Superstars. And here to talk to us about it is Sonic Creative Officer Takashi Iizuka and translating for Iizuka-san, Senior Director at Sega of America, Austin Keys. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, my first question is, what was the inspiration behind Sonic Superstars?
A lot of the inspiration came back when we were in development looking at, the Sonic Mania, and then Sonic Origins came out. We wanted something that really hit on that 2D gaming element, but we wanted to make it something that was going to be more current and in the now. So we took that 2D classic gaming structure and started creating a game that really hit on all of those classic moments, the classic gameplay, but brought it into something current that could stand right next to Sonic Frontiers, which is also the current 3D version of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now, what can you tell us about the story of Sonic Superstars?
Yeah, we are taking this back to the roots of the classic Sonic formula, and I can't talk that much about the story of Sonic Superstars.
We're holding the story, really?
The storytelling that we're going to do is similar to that classic version of the game. So we don't have voiceover. We aren't making people read a lot of text in order to understand the story. We're going down even further into the roots, and we're using that classic storytelling technique of just using the characters as superstars and kind of how they're running around in the world and how they're doing battle against Eggman, and all of that is being told in that classic formula of storytelling.
What is it about this particular game that sets it apart from its predecessors?
What sets it apart from its predecessors?
The
That's
biggest
interesting.
difference between this current version of the classic Sonic game and the current versions of 3D Sonic games, we really make Sonic Frontiers to be a game that gamers are going to be able to jump into.
Wait, he said what sets it apart from its predecessors, so he's referring to like the other classic games. He mentioned Frontiers.
Get into the deep classic Sonic game and the current versions of 3D Sonic games. We really make Sonic Frontiers to be a game that gamers are going to be able to jump into, get into the deep gameplay, play for a long time, and really have a lot of fun as a gamer. But we wanted to do something different for Sonic Superstars and take that.
So Frontiers was meant for gamers. So what is Superstars meant for? Casuals? Non-gamers? I mean, I guess it's got 4-player co-op, so it really is designed for non-gamers in the sense that only one person really has to play well, and the other 3 can just like tag along and not really know what they're doing, and it could still work basically. Just like Super Mario Bros. Co-op.
Classic gameplay formula and present a game where you can have the whole family come in and join. It's very easy, open for all ages to just jump in, play the game, understand it, have fun, have other people play with you, and really have a good time together.
Now, you mentioned playing with the family and friends. So what can you tell us about multiplayer and co-op?
そうですね。今回ソニックスーパースターズを作るにあたって。
So yeah, when we were developing the game, Sonic Superstars, it's all about our superstar characters, Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles. And Amy's going to be playable in this game. We wanted to bring those superstars into the game and have you be able to play cooperatively with each other with our superstars.
Now, of course, Eggman is like the big baddie in the Sonic universe, and I'm assuming we're definitely going to see him show up in Superstars.
I wonder if they're going to call him Eggman, or are they going to call him Robotnik because it was the 90s, right? I mean, in Japan, he was always Eggman, I guess, but at least in the West,
Other villains that we could also expect, or is that you can't really tell me? I'll let you translate this.
今回はもちろんエッグマンが
So yes, Eggman is the villain of this story, but what's going to be new and interesting is Eggman has actually hired or employed Fang, which some people may know and remember from some of our older games. But yes, Eggman has hired Fang.
It was an illusion technically in Sonic Mania, but yeah.
Together as a team. And what Fang
I'm sorry, when I saw that little Mania footage, I just thought of the Hardboiled Heavies music in my head, and it's just really epic music. It just came into my head.
To kind of take over the island together as a team. And what Fang has done, he's even gone out on the island and found another character, Trip, who they're going to join forces, and the 3 of them are now like the evil group that's going to be working against Sonic and the Superstars.
The combat system in Sonic Frontiers is really extensive. I'm kind of curious, what are we looking at with Superstars, like as in regards to the platforming and the combat system?
皆さんご存知のクラシックソニックって本当に
One of the things we wanted to do is make sure we really had the roots of that classic gameplay solid. The very first thing the team did was went and replicated that classic gameplay down very precisely. So when you're playing Sonic Superstars, you're running, you're jumping, you're getting into a ball, you're defeating enemies, and you're continuing forward. So once they had that fundamental base created, they went in and said, we need now character-specific actions. We need Tails to be able to fly. Knuckles needs to glide and be able to climb. Amy needs to be able to use her hammer. So they went in, after that base was created, and started putting in the character's unique actions.
So we have 7 Chaos Emeralds that are in this game. Can you tell us what happens when you actually obtain the emeralds?
Super Sonic.
今までのソニックゲームですと
It's about the emerald
I think we
powers.
know before in classic Sonic games, when you got all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, or when you got all of the Chaos Emeralds, you could turn into Super Sonic. In this game, we have something a little bit different. When you get a Chaos Emerald, each of the Chaos Emeralds are going to have their own unique emerald
Wait,
power.
but when he says it that way, he mentions Super Sonic and then he says he's got something different. Is he saying that the emerald powers replace the ability to become Super Sonic once you got all 7 emeralds? Is that it?
So, as you're playing the game and as you're collecting these emeralds, you're going to want to, get the emeralds because you also have these unique abilities you can use in the game. Some of these abilities may be able to create many different avatars of your character, and those avatars will come on screen and help defeat all the enemies. There's other Chaos Emerald powers where you can turn into this liquidy water form, and because you're also part of water, you can go into a waterfall and maybe swim up the waterfall as your water-powered self. So there's lots of unique abilities that you'll be able to have by getting the Chaos Emeralds, and it's something very unique to this game, not done in the other classic series titles.
This is amazing. We've never seen anything like this in any Sonic game, so I'm kind of curious.
We've seen this in colors.
Do the emeralds affect the characters differently, or is it like similar effects across the board?
能力はエメラルドごとに
Yes, all of the powers are tied to the emerald. These are the emerald powers. So as you
So instead of emerald power,
as
it's
you get
color.
these emeralds,
Instead of
you
color
have
power, it's
that
emerald power.
ability for any
Basically,
of the characters
it's the
you're
same
playing.
thing.
So if you're playing with Tails or Knuckles as well, you can also turn into the water form. And
But I mean, the water form lets you go up. I mean, Tails can fly, so that's a bit redundant for Tails. I mean, like in Colors, only Sonic was playable, so the wisps were tailored to what would benefit Sonic. Where like the laser wisp going upwards wouldn't really benefit Tails if Tails could just fly there. I mean, I guess he'd be slightly faster, I guess. But in the case of this Emerald power, where it's like you can jump through the water, wouldn't it just be faster to just fly with Tails instead of using that?
It's the same abilities that Sonic has.
So I'm kind of curious, like, what inspired you all to kind of like give the Emeralds different powers?
モダンソニックでいうとカラーパワーに似てると。
You just mentioned the I just heard that.
Actually came from
I
inside
knew
of
it.
our own titles. I think a lot of the inspiration came from Sonic Colors and the color powers that in a modern Sonic game, that's what they wanted to do in order to give Sonic new abilities and be able to make a world and a zone that's different, that can be navigated differently, either with the laser or with the other color powers.
Iizuka really
But
mixed
they wanted
classic
to
Sonic
take
and
that
Wisps.
kind of idea and digest that and say,
Iizuka.
if we're making a classic Sonic game, what are the powers we can give classic Sonic? How can we give classic Sonic those powers, and how can those actions and powers actually help make it easier for classic Sonic to get around? And then here's the new level design that we can create because we have these abilities. We have if it was a color powers, a drill that could get to a place that usually.
So I'm guessing if it's just like the Wisp, then you should, in theory, be able to beat the levels without using them, right? Because the Wisp, you usually never needed them to beat the levels entirely, except in the final boss, so they make you kind of use all the Wisp. But I don't think it would be mandatory in that sense. I guess to not piss off the classic purists who don't want to use any of that new shit,
Modern Sonic couldn't get to, but these new Chaos, these Emerald powers, because we have these Emerald powers, we can have classic Sonic and the other classic superstars get around and navigate the world differently.
Now, of course, we have to talk about the graphics. It seems you all have fully embraced the 3D aesthetic, which is popular today. How are you able to kind of meld that with the old 16-bit days? Because we've advanced pretty far beyond the Genesis and the Game Gear with our current gen consoles.
まずはグラフィックが綺麗になるというのは当たり前ですよね。でそれと
It is that 2D classic Sonic game, but because we're using 3D models to create the world and the characters, we're able to do things inside of that 2D gameplay formula that we couldn't have done before. So sometimes it's going to be sending the character back further into the world. Maybe it's going to be turning the character, spinning the character in a way that we couldn't really do with the classic look and the pixel art. Or it could be a boss battle that we're going to have in this kind of 3D space.
Did that
all
in
these things
Mania,
we can do because we have
going into the
3D
backdrop.
models, even though we have a 2D game style and a game format, we're able to play around and do things that the classic Genesis and Game Gear titles couldn't do.
From what we've seen, it looks like we're going to be getting a lot of new levels and worlds for Sonic and his friends to play in. But for the hardcore fans, can we expect any of the classic worlds to return, like Green Hill Zone? I'm a huge fan of Green Hill Zone.
Of course, no, we can't expect it. Okay, we've seen it enough. No, we've seen it enough.
ソニックマニアはそのグリーンヒルゾーン
What we wanted to do with Sonic Superstars is really create something new and go in there and create these brand new islands that you get to explore as Sonic. For Sonic Superstars, we wanted to take Sonic to brand new North Star Islands and have Sonic run around in this new environment. So we wanted to make brand new places for Sonic to go in this new title.
Last question I have to ask, because music is very important to the Sonic series. Kind of curious, what type of jams are we going to be listening to in this game?
そうですね。クラシックソニックはすごくポップな。
So yeah, the classic Sonic music has always had this real fun pop vibe to it, and we wanted to stay true to the roots with a classic series and go and create some new, great new music for Sonic Superstars. So what we did is actually we're working with Jun Seno-ue, who is the music
The way you
director
pronounce
on
that, is that how
Sonic
you say his
3,
name?
and he's also worked on Sonic Mania. But we're using Jun, and he's
Wait, hold on.
And he's also worked on Sonic Mania.
Jun Sonoe worked on Sonic Mania? Really? I was not aware of that. When did Jun Sonoe work on Sonic Mania? I was not made aware of that. I was not made aware of that at all. Audio engineering. I was hoping I could see like an exact song that he worked on, because I swore it was just T-Lopes and hyper potions. Like, maybe guitars? I'm trying to think, like, what did he do for Sonic Mania? Because, like, the whole main OST was T-Lopes, and then you had, like, the hyper potion songs, and that was it, right? I can't even see Mania out of all these game lists. I'm drawing a blank here. Yeah, this says audio engineer. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but we're using June, and he's partnering with other people who also worked on Sonic Mania music and creating this new kind of sound and this new music that's going to be a perfect fit for a classic Sonic game. Lots of fun, lots of pop.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Honestly, I cannot wait. Iizuka-san, Austin, thank you all so much for filling us in on Sonic Superstars. And before they leave, I'm going to have them sign this compendium here. Iizuka-san, if you would do
I actually
the
have
honors
that, the
of signing
encyclopedia.
this.
Sure.
I got that shit. But yeah, what's the moral of the story, right? What is the moral of the story? Iizuka pretty much said everything that I was already thinking when I looked at the trailer. He said, okay, we're giving them a modern game. Let's give them a classic game. Let's make it nice and easy so that the casuals can play it and it's not tailored towards the gamers who actually want, like, degrees of challenge and things like that. Let's make it nice and simple, New Super Mario Bros.-esque, you know, tick that box of, yeah, bank on that. It's classic. It's just like the 90s. Please buy it kind of shit, right? And then, of course, Iizuka lost the wisps. Colors is his game. So he's integrated the wisps into classic Sonic. Let the classic fans have the wisps, okay? Keep it away from the modern games. That's one thing I'm really glad Francis didn't do, is they didn't give us wisps for the first time since Unleashed. Holy fuck. Sonic Team have been giving us wisps since after Unleashed. Oh my god, we've been suffering. But yes, it's exactly what I expected. But the reviews saying that the music wasn't all that is kind of disappointing. But I mean, Jun Sonoe, like, as goated as he is, he doesn't seem to go in on the classic sounding soundtrack. Like Sonic 4, I enjoyed Sonic 4 soundtrack, but like, compared to Mania's soundtrack, it's not even a comparison. So him doing this soundtrack and people saying that the music wasn't like on that level, you know, I guess T-Lopes is helping as well. So maybe the songs that T-Lopes does will be better. I'm getting the game on PC anyway, so if it's that mid of music, there'll be mods for that, right? We'll put some Mania music in there. I already did a test where I put Press Garden on that like speed jungle zone, and it worked really well. So if it's a case of put some other Sonic music on there, make it sound better, you know, modern Sonic model, you know, there'll be some mods, right? There'll be some mods, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about the game so far. Are you copying? $60? You can get the deluxe version, $70. And of course, a big shout out to all my channel members. I don't actually have the list here, I'm so sorry, but make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Make sure to check out the non-Sonic channel. The link will be in the description. We've been streaming these Summer Game Fest events, and I haven't been changing my face in these thumbnails, but I should start doing that. But yeah, thanks you guys for watching. It's been real. The Remy out.